Okay. Well, I would like to call the Ways and Means Committee to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott,
Present.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Here.
Commissioner Marecki,
Here.
Commissioner Bejun,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Palomera,
Here.
Chair Varga.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. We have other commissioners who joined us as well. Please follow the I don't have any remarks today, so go ahead with the agenda.
Item C, approval of the minutes of the June 9, 2020 meeting.
So
moved, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, who moved?
Baker McCormick.
So is
Scott.
that
Baker McCormick support.
Thank you. Next item, item D, unfinished.
No, we have to vote on it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item, unfinished business. There is none. Moving to item E1 of new business, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2020-35170, certifying revenue and reallocating expenditures in the COVID-19 fund.
Thank you. We are just moving funds over. Do we have Mr. Khalil with us? Khalil Rahal?
I think he's just getting on right now, so he just needs a minute.
Okay. Wafa, do you want to take a stab at it, or do you want to wait for him?
No, we can wait. I'll let me share my screen so we can actually just kind of start going through.
Okay, 1 second, Wafa. Let me.
Sure. Thanks, Octavia.
No problem. You can share your screen now.
I see it.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So Khalil's getting on right now, so we'll just give him a minute. He wants to do the introduction.
Already?
Sorry.
Oh, there he is. Look at that.
Oh, that's okay. Tell me when you're ready.
Oh, I'm ready. Have you all opened the meeting up? I apologize.
Yeah, we're go ahead and start with the presentation.
Okay.
We have been waiting for you patiently.
So thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the rest of the commissioners who took time for this meeting. I really want to thank your staff who worked quite quickly to get this in front of you all. And I want to thank our staff who have worked really, really hard. As you all know, the county is certainly dealing with both a pandemic and an economic crisis that has, resulted in different executive orders and shutdowns and the like. And I was really happy to see that, of all the states, Michigan is one of the states today that hasn't seen an uptick in numbers, and that's really excellent news. And as such, businesses are starting to open up. But they have been closed down for about 3 months, which is about a quarter of the year. And I just want to give a little bit of perspective of what businesses are going through right now. After being closed down for 3 months, they're really only able under executive orders to open up at 50% capacity. And then they're still dealing with consumer confidence issues. There's a lot of people who are still feel fearful of participating in our economy for the obvious reasons. There are 8 million cases almost worldwide. We all know the United States is the leader in COVID-19 cases. We all know Michigan has been upwards and near the top, percentage-wise. And we all know within Michigan, Wayne County is the largest county. And even though we only have 17.5% of the population, we have almost 50% of the deaths. And so small businesses are really dealing with that right now because consumer confidence is an issue. And to overcome some of that confidence issue, they have increased expenses. They have additional sanitation expenses. They have different expenses for PPE. They have different plexiglass and marketing and social distancing expenses and all the like. And so because of all that, businesses are very, very desperate for help right now. And so over the course of the last 8 weeks or so, we have been hosting a meeting every Friday at 1 o'clock via Zoom, where we have had over, 60 to 70 different people, well over, 40 different organizations represented, different chambers of commerces, business organizations, local municipalities, and county commissioners who have taken time out of their Fridays to attend these meetings with these local business owners to hear what issues they're facing and ways where we can overcome some of those issues. And I'm happy to say that those Friday meetings have been, incredible for staff and for us to face certain issues and come up with certain solutions. And so we really wanted to address this problem. You all know we received $188 million of CARES Act money. Now, there is not a lot of guidance for how we can use this money. We know that we have to use it before December 30th. We know we can't use it on revenue loss, but we know it's to help fight the pandemic of COVID-19. And so our hope through these Friday meetings and conversations with everybody was to design a program that can help small business overcome some of these issues, so that they can give consumer confidence and so that they can ultimately get back to work and folks can start participating in our economy again. Because without some level of relief, we're going to see a lot of businesses fall. And I don't have to tell everybody here, property taxes are our main source of revenue. And so we got to do everything that we can to help the small businesses to protect against that revenues. And so we're designing a program that really businesses can use in any way, shape, or form. You all know we've done other programs. We've done grant programs. We've done loan programs. And I'm happy to report our TCF program is still going, and it's going fine. But we need to come up with a grant program because small businesses right now cannot take on any more debt. They can't take on any more water. And so in designing a program, what we did was, in talking on our Friday meetings, try to get a sense of what people's true needs are. And so we wanted to be able to design a program that was incredibly flexible for everybody's different situation. Payroll costs are a problem. Contract labor is a problem. Supplier payments are a problem. Rent, lease, mortgage, utilities, expensive marketing, expensive IT, costs for the PPE and all these other social distancing things. These are all additional expenses that businesses have had to take on. And so we wanted to design a grant program where the grant can be used on all these different kinds of things. And so I do want to introduce other members of our team who helped us sort of create this presentation. You all know Wapa De Niro. She needs no introduction. She'll be sort of talking in and out throughout all this. And you all, some of you have met Luz Meza, who is, sort of our, on the ground, talking one-on-one with businesses every day. She's sort of our technical expert, and she puts together, the applications and things like that. But the county commission approved a few weeks ago the ability for us to get a consultant to maximize federal opportunities. And so I want to introduce Jeff. Jeff, are you on? I can only see so many people at the same time here on the Zoom.
Jeff, on.
Yeah, Khalil, I'm here.
Hey, Jeff. Okay, so Jeff is with Guidehouse, and as I mentioned last week, the county commission some weeks ago approved the contract between us and Guidehouse to be able to maximize any opportunities that may come our way, not just CARES Act dollars, but FEMA dollars, all these other things. And so I want to turn it over to Jeff, because Jeff is not just our consultant; he's a consultant for municipalities nationwide. And so I his expertise is in the CARES Act, and I wanted him to talk about the next few slides.
Thank you, Khalil, and thank you, Madam Chair, and the entire Wayne County Commission. As Khalil said, I'm Jeff Bankowski. I'm the Michigan Engagement Partner for Guidehouse. And on behalf of our entire team here, Thank you for allowing us to work with you. Just as background, Guidehouse is a national advisory firm. Previously, the public sector practice of PricewaterhouseCoopers. We're based in Washington, D.C. with regional offices in Detroit, and we have 8,000 employees and advise almost every federal agency and a majority of the states in the top 20 counties in the United States. Particularly for CARES work and COVID recovery support. Just to give you kind of a context, we're providing services to 32 states, 30 healthcare systems representing over 400 hospitals, 11 cities and counties, providing really the exact same work. And in particular, we're also working, doing this exact same work for Cook County in Illinois, Harris County in Texas, which are the second and third largest counties. So those are a lot of the comparisons that when we're doing the work for you. We're also the advisor to CDC and the Department of Treasury on the policies, procedures, and controls for the actual CARES Act. So as you can see on the slide here, on March 27th, Congress passed the Coronavirus Aid and Relief and Economic Security Act, commonly known as the CARES Act. The CARES Act permits local governments to allocate CARES Act funds through grants to small businesses to help reimburse the cost of business interruption caused by the required closures due to the pandemic. As Khalil also kind of said, just to inform the commission, we started last week, and we attended last Friday's Wayne County call on the workplace reentry and the working group on Friday, hosted by Khalil and the economic development team. We would, based on all of our work, and we would really kind of commend that team, and that really is leading practice. And as Wafa will probably talk a little bit later regarding kind of the promotion of this thing. Really, what you guys have been doing on the Fridays are setting a great foundation for success in this program. Wafa, if you can go to the next slide. So you can see here the grant programs for small businesses are certainly not unique, and the map here is just providing a visual list of counties, and these were parts of some of our benchmarking analysis when we were advising the county on the program. We've also leveraged a few large in our benchmarking analysis. We looked at Chicago, Houston, Boston, and Seattle, really to be able to kind of identify comparable large counties and cities to really kind of shape a leading practice program. Next slide. So as we kind of discuss a little bit of the program, I wanted to talk through who we envision as qualifying the program. In general, we want brick and mortar, based companies, and that have a good standing with Laura. And Laura's the licensing and regulatory affairs, so it has to be a registered business, understood by the state of Michigan. We also really want to focus on the businesses and the entities that truly need it. So we have a qualifier here that profit shouldn't exceed $1 million. Obviously, those are very entities that probably don't necessarily need it as much. And our really focus is on small businesses. So these will be businesses under 50 employees, as well as they were profitable pre-pandemic. We want to make sure that we're investing in the businesses that are the fabric of our county and our community, and obviously need to be within Wayne. What I want to do is kind of flip it over to Khalil for a second to provide context on the management recommendation. Then I'll come back through to discuss in detail the process. Khalil, next slide.
Yeah. Thank you, and that was great, Jeff. And so I think what's important that I've heard so far that I think you ought to pay attention to is, one, we've sort of designed this program with many different partners. Two, we've had our consultants sort of look nationwide, and what we're finding is other municipalities are doing this. Other municipalities our size, smaller than us, larger than us, are doing it. And so in an effort to try to provide some good amount of programming and taking the feedback that we've had, we're requesting that we spend about $50 million of the CARES Act money to be awarded to grants within Wayne County. The maximum amount of a grant would be $10,000, it would be to make up at least 2 months of lost revenue, which means at minimum, we'd be able to help at the very least 5,000 businesses in Wayne County. We'll likely help more. I don't expect every business to just get a $10,000 award. But that's the hope. And so that number, has been heavily debated. It has a lot to deal with the feedback we received during our Friday calls. It has a lot to do with what we're seeing other municipalities are doing. It has a lot to deal with what we think we can withstand. And so we think we're sort of landing in a good place. Let me also just say there's probably 10,000 different ways we can do this. And I don't know that we ever get a single right way. I think we've sort of landed on the best way to do it. So can you go to the next slide? Let me turn this over to Wafa to talk about it. And I'll just say this. If we are fortunate enough to receive the approval of the County Commission today and possibly tomorrow, we are not going to go live with the application, not for the better part of 10 days. And I just wanted to say why. What we found is doing this before, your true small business, your mom and pop shop, they have oftentimes very little time, very little resources, and not enough education to find resources out there for help, right? And I think Jeff mentioned it earlier. We want to target the most distressed businesses that are really your true small business, and so we're going to take some time to promote this countywide before we actually launch the program and things like that. So. Wafat, do you want to take this slide here?
Yeah, I think Khalil teed that up really well. I think the promotion is going to be the biggest part of this. I know we've all read in the papers about small businesses being left out of the PPP because the larger businesses have the resources and are able to access those resources. So we want to make sure that we are leaving plenty of time to promote this, to get the word out, and to get the smallest businesses to be able to give them time to be able to pull their financials, to be able to pull their mortgage or their leases, and to be able to pull the data so they can apply for the grants. So we would like to have some time before launching it to be able to promote it all throughout the county. We obviously will put it on our website. We're going to be working with our communications team to put out news releases, put it on social media. We also intend on doing webinars to be able to go through step by step, from A to B, showing the small businesses how to go through the application process. We want to be able to use our community partners to be able to promote this and be able to get the word out to the most, the neediest businesses and the smallest businesses. So this is kind of the process. Initially, we want to do the outreach and communications. We want to be able to have a solid week to 10 days to be able to do the outreach and communications. Once we get the word out, the application will go live for 2 weeks. In that time period, we'd like to do several webinars on our Friday calls, be able to post them on social media so businesses can start collecting the information they need and can also follow the instructions and make the instructions as easy as possible. We will have the application open for 12 days. And then once the application period closes, depending on how many applications we get, we are gonna select them in batches. We will select, say, 2,000 applications. We will go through the compliance of those applications, and everybody who has a complete application is in good standing with the state and meets all the other criteria that we've laid out will get the award. Once we do the first batch, we will issue the checks, and then we will go through another randomly selected batch and be able to continue doing that until the money is exhausted. So the process is fair. We're using Guidehouse to provide the program that will randomly select the batches. They have, they can actually, Jeff, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that program and how that specifically will work.
Sure, thanks Wafa. Yeah, as Wafa indicated, there, if you look at on the process wheel, those steps 3 and 4, We think it's great on step 3 that it's incorporating a strong lead period, especially with the 4th of July holidays, so that we normally see 10 business days, and the county is already kind of proactively recommended for that. What we're going to be doing on the random selection, and we use a leading software program called software application called R. And we'll be putting all of the qualified and the vetted applications into the program, so that it's completely transparent, it's fair and equitable, and we will be randomly selecting each individual kind of instance, and then going through the compliance procedures, obviously, to make sure that they were a legitimate business. So this exact program is used by all leading statisticians, and it's best practice with software.
And if I could just say, I think it's important to know how we sort of came up with this sort of process. I think number one, we've got excellent consultants, as you heard, all the municipalities that they represent, and representing, even the federal government in some cases on the CARES Act is huge. I think, 2, we've had a lot of conversations with the Chamber of Commerce's and those organizations. But 3, we have learned a lot from going through this process once before. And so I think that is something that plays a huge vital role in how we came up with this process. You all know we received, $800,000 or $1.6 million in the previous grant agreement that we had with the DEGC and the MEDC and those kinds of things. And we left that application process open for about 4 or 5 days, and we received like 4,000 applications. Now, that was for, $800,000 that we were going to administer. So nobody has the sort of capability of judging thousands and thousands and thousands of applications. If we went through that, it would never get done. Businesses would never get their money. And we'd be doing this. We'd never spend the money in time, because we have to remember, we have to spend this money by December 30th. But what we have seen, and I think what Jeff has pointed out to us, is other municipalities are using this random generator like a lottery, and then checking the compliance and then issuing checks to the best of their ability. And so what we have done is trying to account for all these issues. We are going to teach the Chamber of Commerce's and our groups how to teach their board members, their businesses, the municipalities, how to apply for this program. We're going to do that for the better part of 10 days. We're going to leave the grant application process open for 2 weeks, and then we are going to do a random generator that has controls, that ensure every municipality is represented, that has controls that make sure that things are done properly, and then hopefully issue the checks throughout the summer to the best of our ability. So I just wanted everybody to know, we have some experience with it. We know what mistakes can be made throughout this process. We also know what other municipalities are doing nationwide, and so the combination of those things is kind of what you see on the screen.
So a little bit about what the application is going to look like. We're trying to make the application, it's all going to be in one place. It'll be a one-stop shop. This is kind of just a draft application. It'll be very clear. The communication will be qualifying businesses. All the criteria will be clearly labeled. They have to be brick and mortar, under 50 employees, in good standing with the state, open for at least a year. Gross profits don't exceed $1 million. And then we're also putting in there that business chains are not eligible, except for individually owned franchises. We want to make sure that these are going to the actual small businesses, and that the money isn't going to the bigger chains. So this is kind of what it would look like, what their process would be. They would just kind of fill in all of the blanks, give us a list of how many employees they have. They would have to certify that they actually have less than 50 employees. They would provide us with their estimated revenue and have to certify that that's accurate. This is all going to be so we're in compliance with the CARES Act, and we're making sure that that every individual business that is being awarded money is deserving of the money and meets our criteria. The step that we're going to be taking to make sure that they're actually small businesses and they're in good standing, Wayne County staff will be going through every application and checking the eligibility based on their reported data, as well as checking it individually within Laura. We did that with the last grant, and we find that very useful, and we found that we were able to take out a couple companies that weren't actually registered with the states. And then the awards are going to be given based on 2 months of lost revenue, not to exceed $10,000. So ultimately, we'll be giving out a minimum of $5,000, a minimum of 5,000 awards. So, like I said, grants will be awarded for up to $10,000 for up to $50 million based on the lost revenue for 2 months that the businesses will certify, and will provide us with their financials to ensure that what they're telling us is actually the same as what their financials are showing. So the next steps, I think I'll kick it back to Khalil. I think we're in step 1 right now. And then for today and tomorrow, we'll continue to be in step 1. And then once it gets approved, we will post the application online for, we'll promote it for a week. We'll post the application online for 2 weeks. And we're going to ensure that every small business that can qualify for this will apply and be able to get the funding they need to stay open and to be able to continue to pay their Wayne County taxes ultimately.
Madam Chairwoman,
Thank you.
I'd be open to answering any questions you have.
Alrighty. Any commissioners?
Commissioner, Madam Chair,
Commissioner Baidoon.
good morning, everyone. Good morning, Khalil, Wafa, everyone. Thank you for this insightful, informative presentation. This is great. So many businesses do need this financial support. I will make a motion to move this to
Commissioner Baidoon. Commissioner Baidoon. Could you
Yes.
support it? Commissioner Marecki already asked me if she couldn't be the maker of the motion.
Oh, okay. I'll support it.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. I have
Okay,
a question, Madam Chair.
We have a motion and support discussion now. Commissioner
Hadis.
Hedges, go ahead.
Yes. I know, Khalil or Wafa, you mentioned the businesses with employee to qualify. What about Mama and Papa store, the one hurting really, and they operate the business by the ownership?
And
those qualify?
Absolutely. They have to have under 50 employees. So if it's 1 employee, if it's 2 employees, they absolutely qualify. And then the mom and pop and brick and mortar businesses are exactly who we're targeting with this grant.
Excellent. Yes.
I was going to say, it might be a good moment. Luz Meza is on with us because, I know folks are wondering, why 50 employees? What's that number? Why is that the sort of right line to walk? And folks should know, again, we do have national consultants who have been looking at other programs all across the country. But, there's a lot of people who work part-time employees. And so when you think of 50 employees, a lot of people think that that's a lot of employees. That maybe visual doesn't maybe coincide with what you think a mom and pop shop really looks like. But I think it might be helpful. Luz, can you provide maybe some examples of some businesses that this would apply to?
Yeah, so I think we saw some examples in the initial survey that we ran, asking for feedback from businesses when the pandemic hit. And we had several businesses that were considered small businesses with employee sizes over 50. And I think the way I like to think about it, and I worked in food service for a really long time, but if you think about a restaurant, just one shift, you think about going in the morning to eat breakfast at a Coney, and they have to have at least 2 people behind, in the kitchen. They have to have at least 1 busboy. If they have, let's say, 10 tables, that has to be 2 or 3 servers. So we're already at like 6 or 7 employees in the house, as well as then you would need a cashier and you need a manager. You're probably going to be paying for a small restaurant about 10 tables. You're going to see 10 staff per shift. So in the morning, that's 10. In the evening, 10 more. that's already 20. And then you have to consider the fact that, you know, all of those people don't work 7 days a week. So it's going to be somewhere between 20 and 30 for just a small restaurant, 10 tables. You think of our bigger restaurants, are really destination restaurants here in the community that we all love to go and eat at, with their patios and all of the things. You're thinking about a restaurant with 30 tables, that's probably going to double your wait staff or triple your wait staff. Looking into different shifts, you're going to have quite a large number of part-time staff. So we really wanted to think about all of those restaurants who provide employment for folks on a part-time basis, and all of those folks who also employ teens and young folks in our community. That's a really significant portion of our employed population. We want, you know, to keep having places for our teens to make their money when they're not in school. And those folks would have, you know, a really large number of young folks who kind of come through to work, you know, 1 or 2 days a week. And so we just, in terms of looking at those part-time employees, we want to give opportunities for businesses to have rotating shifts.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You know, I really believe in the need. It's there. And before you open the application online, you said it's going to take a week or 2 weeks from now, and you're going to open it for 2 weeks only. So before you open those applications, is that possible to send note to all the commissioners to know, and they could inform some of the key offices or people in their district to spread the word to the small businesses who's really not paying too much attention to the media, or they didn't have the technology. So I hope you let us know ahead, couple of days, is when you're gonna open those applications, and we could pass the word to the district.
Absolutely. We'll absolutely do that.
It's a good move. I can't thank you guys enough for that. It's badly needed. Thank Warren Evan and his staff for stepping forward for helping hand when we need that helping hand.
Thank you. I know Khalil called me on Sunday, and he's been working overtime, so has his staff. So we really appreciate the hard work. Commissioner Maraki next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also had a question. This is Baker McCormick when she gets through.
Okay.
And Scott.
Thank you,
All right,
Madam
you're
Chair.
on the list.
I just wanted to say that Commissioner Daub and I have been on these Zoom calls for the last couple of months, and it's really been an amazing experience. The EDC has done a remarkable job, and I'd just like to acknowledge I'm looking through the participants and acknowledge all the businesses and the chambers that are on this call right now that have been on the calls every Friday. But there's been so much work that's gone into not only this, but this final product. But in case you don't know, on the county website, there's like a back to work section now that you can go into that Luce has done a ton of work on, and it's really informative for businesses that are starting to open up and going back to work. And all this discussion through the last 8 weeks has come to fruition with the website, with this program, getting all the feedback from the businesses and the chambers. So I've really enjoyed the experience. I think this is going to be a great program, and I've kind of been talking to businesses about something will be coming out, a grant type program, and they're very excited because some of them had to take loans in different areas. So this is exciting for businesses to have a grant like this, and it's nice that it's opened up to anybody that qualifies for it. So I just want to thank Wafa and Khalil and Luz, the whole group, and all the participants, because it's really been a great experience, and I'm sure our businesses are going to so appreciate this. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too would like to commend the committee, Wayne County Executive, for coming up with this way in which they're distributing the funds. I just wanted to clarify a couple things. First, did you say there is no funds available to chain stores? So if you have a chain, you cannot apply? Is that correct?
So individual franchise owners can apply. We don't want it to go to big companies, but yes, you can apply if you're an individual franchisee. So in the first grant program, we had a couple from like Tropical Smoothie. They're individually owned, but they are part of a big franchisee. We are allowing them to apply, but we don't want like a big like McDonald's to be able to apply for this money.
So an individual McDonald owner can apply. Is that?
Yes, if they are an individual owner of one, yes, they would be able to apply. Correct.
Okay. And when you say profitable, because they would have had to be profitable before applying, I guess last year, in the last year they would have had to be. What does profitable mean exactly?
It just means that they have had to have been in the black. So they have had to have made some money. We don't want to give the money to businesses that were already dying before COVID. And we want to be able to make sure that we're supporting businesses that had a strong, robust business model before the pandemic.
Okay, so some businesses, although they may not be profitable, they may still, conduct business every year, but they just aren't profitable. So that's why I wanted to clarify that and have a better understanding. So if you're in a dollar in the red, then you cannot apply, basically.
Yeah, we want companies to be in the black, correct. We want to make sure that they are going to be sustainable through the pandemic and after the pandemic.
Okay. And as far as the webinar is concerned, are you giving out the information on the launch date and that they can also attend the webinar before the launch date? And is that going to be like a one-pager that we can then get out to the community?
Yes, absolutely. And then we will record the webinar and we'll have it on our website as well. So if people can't attend the webinar live, they'll be able to go back and watch it and be able to watch the application process while they fill out their application or before they fill out their application. And we'll provide all of that information to the full commission.
Okay. And the software, I believe he said it's called R, that is going to randomly select the businesses. Can you talk a little bit more about that program and how it works?
Sure. Like you said, the software program is R. It's generally leading practiced software that we use in all of our statistical modeling. So and used by a lot of the other kind of different funds. So we have I have Bob Dunmeyer and Stephen Metzger. Bob, are you on the call? From our advanced analytics team, our deep statisticians. So Bob and Steve, you want to make just a couple comments?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. And Stephen is the statistician that's going to be handling this for us, and he can chime in. But he's going to be able to, actually, why don't I just hand it over to Stephen? Why don't you take this, Stephen, and explain how the model will work for you? Yeah.
Stephen, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yeah, this is Steve Metzger, part of Guidehouse on the advanced analytics team, as Jeff and Bob said there.
Thank you.
And yeah, as Jeff described, R is kind of the leading use for statisticians academically and in the field here. And so it's just a statistical computing software where I will program up a simple random survey, and not to get into too many details, but it'll essentially give every individual business the same probability of being selected, like a random lottery, as Khalil mentioned earlier.
Okay, so once the applications come in, then you put all of the businesses that qualify, or is it all of the applicants that go into the system?
So we'll initially do, there'll be some qualification on the front end, and then, you know, the as Wafa said, on the kind of the back end too, there's also a compliance mechanism that we'll necessarily do in step 5.
Okay, so the compliance is done before or after the R?
There'll be some before and then some necessarily after, because you know, we want to make sure even on the vetting on the front end that before we actually cut a physical check, you know, the kind of the details on the, you know, the any type of kind of tax rules and stuff on the back end.
Okay, and so everyone will go into this system, and then it just randomly pulls a name or several names at one time, or how does that work?
Yeah, you're exactly right. We're just going to be running through, and we're going to be running. We're going to get random necessarily selections at one time. You know, the like Wafa said at the beginning, there will be some that eventually will kind of kick out. So as we're generating, and it's each application is going to be equivalent to a certain amount of grant. So we're assuming everything is 10 right now, but for every business application, it will say like I'm asking for 7,000. So the system's automatically got control checks to, once we get to close to 50 million, it stops.
Okay.
And Steve will be able to make a list of the selected applications just in case there's a compliance challenge on any, and you'll be able to choose the next randomly chosen application on that list.
Okay. And is there, I guess, a process by where we are eliminating those that have received a grant before?
Khalil or Wafa, you want to take that one?
So I don't know if we've come to a final decision on that. We are leaning towards opening it up to everybody. So keeping it open to all businesses who need it. You know, initially we did the MEDC grant, and it was only 180 applicants, and it was only in $2,500 and $5,000 increments. We think those businesses can still use additional funds if they do qualify, and we would like to open it to everybody. And you know, the city of Detroit also did. You know, they received $800,000. We think it's going to be very difficult to be able to. We have the data on the applicants we have granted money. We don't have the data on applicants that have been granted money through the city of Westland, through the city of Detroit, through the city of Livonia. And we think it's cleaner to just open it up to everybody.
Right. I just don't know about the fairness of that. So that's why I'm questioning whether someone can, you know, reapply. They already got 5. Now they're coming back for additional 10. They probably have all of the same paperwork in order. And so I don't know about the fairness of that.
And I think you're making a good point, you know, and the reality is there's not enough money in the world to solve this problem from everybody. And so, you know, we struggled with, you know, what the cap ought to be, how much we can put in, how many people really help. And I think we generally, in asking ourselves all these factors, landed on the side of, you know, more help is better than less help. And so, you know, you'll see something in there that says, you know, you have to be profitable. Well, you know, nobody likes to say that, but I think we have to help as many businesses that are going to make through this as possible, right? And so you're bringing up a very, very similar point. And so, you know, if it was the general position of the commission to say, look, if you've already received help from somewhere before, we should give this to somebody who hasn't received any help. That makes sense on grant programs. So, I wouldn't have a problem landing on a place that said, if you received a Wayne County grant before, you should not also get this grant. I think Commissioner Baker McCormick, that there's some logic there. If somebody has received a loan, from somewhere else to get help, well, no, that business still needs help, right? Now they need more help. They got a loan with interest, and so I would not want to exclude those businesses. But if your general feeling is like, look, if you've already received a grant from us, we ought to move on to help somebody who hasn't received any assistance. I hear that, and I think we could do that.
All right. Well, thank you. I just thought that would be fair to give someone else a chance. And then the other question is, you explained where the 50 employees came from, and I get that. However, I know a business owner who only has 9 employees, but she owns like 300, properties. So I'm just wondering about that 50 employees. In my district, most of the businesses only have they have less than 5 employees.
Right.
And so just a thought that maybe we could tier the application processes and open it up for businesses that have maybe 20 employees and under, or 10 and under, and open it up to that pool and have a random selection from that pool, and then tier it up to the larger ones. And maybe it could be only, you said it's about 5,000 applications. Maybe you do 1,000 that are 10 and under employees, and then another 1,000 that are 20 employees and under. And that way we kind of see if we can get to those small mom and pop stores. And again, that's just a thought.
Let me say this, and I think your point is understandable. All you're trying to do is to get it to the people who really need it the most. I think for us, the more controls we put in this, the more administrative work it will take for us to handle the program properly, and the longer it will take for us to get money into the hands of people who really need it. What we did do was, in addition to the 50 people and under, we have another requirement that says you have to have less than $1 million of gross revenue, right? And I think that is another control that helps get us to where we're going. I know that we're never going to be able to hit the bullseye. The worst, the most needy 5,000 businesses in the county, we'll never be able to find every single one, right? But what we'll do is, to be able to do the job at all, is put enough controls under 50 employees, under $1 million in gross revenue, and try to, get it in that circle to the best of our ability.
Okay. And I really, really appreciate that effort that you're putting into this, and all of the thought process that's going through this. The last question is there a way we can see what the application, or commissioners see what the application looks like?
And I think
that will be.
I think we got your staff like a draft of the application maybe this morning, so it's really our fault.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. We're refining it every day, and while we know what we're going to be presenting this Friday,
somebody been muted.
While we know what we're going to present this Friday to the Chamber of Commerce's, over the next 10 days, if somebody gives us a feedback that says, hey, can you change this little thing? It might make it easier. And that feedback makes sense, you may see us send you another version.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so
Khalil?
much. And again, I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing around this, and it's great. Thank you.
Khalil, you'll have more time and more feedback probably next Tuesday during our Ways and Means meeting under such other matters. If you have any updates or changes or anything like that, please come back and let us know. And anything you can give us in writing would be really great and helpful. I'm sure you will keep us informed every step of the way.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a long list of members who are on my list to speak. We have Martha G. Scott, Glenn Anderson, Commissioner Pellamere, and Commissioner Baydoun, in that order, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Kalea. I'm excited about this program, but I too, like you answered a number of my questions from the previous Commissioner Monique Baker McCormick. I feel that same way because in my community, most of them do have a small amount of employees. And if you've already received a grant from this CARES, I really just don't think that it's fair that maybe from a second round, but they will never be able to really build their businesses unless you help them. And I was hoping that this particular grant would help those who have small staff that are working, and
Yes,
some
ma'am.
that are just kind of getting started. And I see they do have to be in business for a year. I do have a few businesses that just started up. One may have a year, but some are less than a year. So hopefully you'll be able to, the next time around, help some of those that are just getting started.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's some of our communities that have gone down and now they're trying to come back up. And so there's a lot of just new businesses that are cropping up. So I would hope that you would look at that also. But I do appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Yes,
Commissioner.
I had to unmute. The question I had originally, one of the questions was about the random selection and how that would work, but I think that was pretty well explained. I did want to ask about how the grant is recovered if a recipient business does not reopen. Is there a provision for that?
I don't know if Horace is on here, but I think, you know, there's a couple of things that I would say. Number one, I fully expect businesses to close. I think, you know, there's a couple of things that there are factors in which we're never going to be able to predict. Most notably, you know, if there's a second wave, when there's a second wave, how bad is the second wave, and how soon will we come up with a vaccine. I do not know how people are going to react to not having the answers to some of these questions. I do not know how people will participate in our economy, but what I do know is Wayne County was hit harder than other places, and I think we have to do everything that we can to try to instill consumer confidence so that people participate. And so I wouldn't recommend putting a provision in a grant agreement that says, you know, if you close down, you also have to pay back this money. I think that would be, you know, a difficult thing, you know, for businesses who are, you know, already going to close down. It'd be hard for us to recover in the first place. It'd be more equity on some level that they have to consider. You may find businesses, you know, who just don't know the answer to that question. I don't know how long we would monitor it. I don't know how the auditing would work. I actually don't know what it would mean for the CARES Act. And so I think what we're trying to do here is just to provide, as much relief as possible. There needs to be a grant agreement. I think you're right about that. I don't think you should just, kind of hand the money away without somebody signing some affidavit saying that I am in a small business that's a bricks and mortar. I am under 50 employees. I certify that the tax returns I gave you are true. Those things, you're right. We got to have an agreement that says the logical things under the agreement. But I don't know that we would be prepared to be able to monitor everything going forward to see if people shut down or not.
Yeah, Khalil, this is Horace, but you covered it. But yeah, I mean, the agreement that we are proposing right now, which is based on other counties, and Guidehouse has provided us with sample agreements that Harris County and other counties across the nation have used. But that is with the actual business and the entity. We don't have a personal guarantee, which Khalil pointed out why that might be a difficult thing. But yeah, that's not framed right now. And they do have to certify that whatever they have said in the application is true. So that is in there, and we have remedies for that.
The other question I still had was as far as the recipients to be qualified or to meet the qualifications. I don't see anything about that there's a requirement, or expectation that their taxes are paid out, property taxes.
Yeah, I think that's in the good standing with Laura. I think, some businesses will start to be in good standing with Laura. I don't know if that, we'll have to think a little bit about whether or not, how it works on the taxes. Give me some time to think on that.
I'd appreciate it. I mean, I think it would be a little embarrassing, someone that owed a lot of property taxes, hadn't paid their county taxes, and
Sure.
and they were giving them $10,000 on top of that. So that,
Exactly.
I mean, we've got controls in there that say they have to be profitable. So if you're a profitable business and you're not paying your taxes, we would have hoped that the treasurer would have foreclosed on you by now, right? But in the event that there's somebody that's squeaking through there, yeah, I'd like to think on that.
okay, appreciate it. That's
Thank
all I
you.
have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Palomero.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Vice Chair of this committee and as the commission itself, I want to thank everybody that has assisted with this, getting the badly needed funds, and I'd be honored to make the motion to approve item E1.
We already have a motion and support, Commissioner. Everybody wanted to be the ones who made the motion.
Right.
It's
Put me
a
on that
very,
list,
very
but
good
I'm
thing.
good. I'm good. I can't wait to vote yes.
Me either. Me either.
Okay, I hear you. Okay,
Okay.
I'll be patient. Thanks.
Commissioner, it won't be long. Commissioner Baydoun.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Khalil, Wafa, and everybody, thank you for all the work. I have just a couple observations. They were touched on, Khalil. I know one of the requirements is for a business to be, for business owners to be in business for at least 1 year. Is that accurate, Wafa?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, what about those businesses that opened like 6-7 months ago and then COVID-19 came and now they need all the help, to get back on their feet? I mean, are you going to consider anything? Will you give consideration for those businesses that have been established less than a year?
That it's a tough, I mean, I think this goes back, and I think Commissioner Baker McCormick was making the same point. There is no good answer to your question. Okay. There is only maybe a policy direction. And the reason why is, should businesses, who have opened up only 6, 7, or a few months before the pandemic, when the economy was at the height of our, one of the longest standing, economic rises in history, should they receive help because they need it? Of course, we want them to get help. Of course, they need the help just like everybody needs the help. I think the trouble is there is not enough money in the world to solve every small business problem that we're facing. And in an effort to try to provide businesses who we know will make it through the pandemic, because that's what we really want to see, We want to see businesses make it through the pandemic. We want to give money to businesses who have a track record of making it through tough times. And so that's why we kind of look at it and say 1 year. I know it's not a good answer. And that's not an answer that I even like saying, because, you know, if it were up to me, I'd like the federal government to give us a lot more money to help every Wayne County business get through this. And so, you know, there are 100,000 small businesses in Wayne County that kind of revolve around this criteria, by the way. It's somewhere around that number. I'm sure I'm going to be off a little bit, so don't quote me on that. The point is, you know, if we are only able to help somewhere between, you know, 5 and 7 or 10,000 businesses, just know we're not, you know, we're making a good dent in the problem, but we're not solving the problem.
Also, Khalil, my other question, and you know, in Wayne County, there are many minority-owned businesses, especially in the inner cities, and they employ a lot of the people that need the jobs. Are we going to give some kind of consideration, more of a consideration to minority-owned businesses? And I'm not trying to discriminate here. Just please don't misunderstand me. But there's a lot of minority-owned businesses that employ, you know, people who are impoverished neighborhoods, and they need the jobs. Are we going to do anything like in terms of consideration for these minority-owned businesses?
Well, first, let me say that I'm happy to report that a very large portion of our initial grant program went to minority-owned businesses, went to women-owned businesses, and some even went to veteran-owned businesses. I'm also very happy to report that in our TCF program, the majority of the funds we've deployed in the community have gone to low-income minority areas, and so we're happy about that. We feel, you know, similar to as you feel. However, you know, we may receive 20,000 applications, and I'm hoping we receive that. I'm hoping we receive more. And I cannot stress enough, having gone through this once before, how difficult it is going to be for us to be able to judge different applications. I think the best that we can do to ensure people get the money as fast as possible, because they need it now. You know, they can't wait for this money. If a second wave hits, and it hits sooner than we think because of protests and things opening up, you know, these people, they need the money now. We won't have the ability to go through every application and handle it that way, and then verify all those kinds of things. So I think the way we're suggesting to do it is to put in the kind of controls that Steve and Jeff and others have mentioned, have the random generator, make sure they comply, and if they do, again, we'll issue the check. We won't be able to hit the bullseye on the head for the 5,000 most needy, most successful businesses in the county, but we will hit a good pool of it with the controls we've got in place.
Again, Khalil, I applaud you and the Evans administration, your economic team, for putting this together, and all the people who are involved. And I can't wait to share the information with many of the businesses that need it. And thank you for everything, Khalil. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We do have more people for public comments. So what I'd like to do is I would like to call the question on approval, and then we'll move on. And if we have to have other questions, I'm sure that Khalil and his team will be there tomorrow at full board as well.
That's right.
Commissioner Maraki made the motion, supported by Commissioner Baidoon. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick?
Yes.
Commissioner Mareki?
Yes.
Commissioner Baidoon?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Palomera?
Yes.
Chair Varga?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item, item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I have none. Next.
Item G, public comments.
we have several people who would like to speak under public comments. First, we had a request by ZZ the cook. Are you on? Can you hear me?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Yep, so I just wanted to say really quick, thank you so much for this. Honestly, it's like a dream come true because I've just been praying for something new to come out that I could apply for my business. I've been in business for 5 years now. I've definitely persevered through hardships. I've been working so hard for my business and putting my heart and soul into it. And then of course, COVID-19 hits and you know, my company brings people together for social engagements. So I was one of the first businesses that had to shut down and I lost, you know, my employees and unfortunately a lot of them had to go on unemployment. So I was one of the first people to actually start applying for the Wayne County one that came out, the TCF, all of them. And unfortunately, I did not get any of those approved because of my location. For some reason, 48127 just was not working out. A lot of them were being supported in Detroit and other areas, and I was getting, you know, just declines over and over. So I just wanted to let you guys know that hopefully this all goes well, goes through. This would be amazing for my business because if we get hit with another stay-at-home order, then I need to remodel my business plan to make it so we don't have to get together in person, but maybe I can start offering catering, a catering program, which means I need new equipment in my kitchen. I need to change a little bit of my business model with my architect. And obviously it's gonna take some money after losing 3 months of, you know, income. So please, let's help each other make this happen. I want to say thank you so much to the Wayne County team. They've been doing an amazing job keeping up with me. And I want to share my story. I have business. And they're also in the same boat. We're just looking for a grant that will help our business. And so on.
Thank you. Said 48217.
48127, yes. And we teach culinary classes. Hopefully one day you guys can all join me here at the studio and we can all cook together and enjoy some meals together.
I would love it. I'm the commissioner there.
Yay.
Proudly serving.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Next on the list is Mike Cade would like to speak. Is there Mr. Mike Cade? Chair Bell.
Good afternoon,
Good
everyone.
afternoon.
I just want to thank Chairwoman Varga for calling the meeting for today. It was very important that we got this information out to as many commissioners as possible so that we can start the process of helping the businesses. So of course, if this approved off the agenda today, it'll go to full board tomorrow. And then if it's approved at full board, we'll move forward with it. But thank everyone for the due diligence and bringing this to us. I think if it's passed, it's going to be a great benefit to our residents in Wayne County. You know, we don't have all the money like we wish we would to help everyone, but I think this is going to help a good number of our small businesses in Wayne County. So thank you all for everyone's hard work on our staff and the administration staff to bring this to us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair Bell. I had to call on you under public comment because I didn't see you on the list prior to, but it has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and thank you for giving us this cue to hold the meeting. Next person who would like to, Mr. Hassan Sheikh.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? I'm the Deputy Director of Economic and Community Development for the City of Dearborn. I appreciate the time to speak, Madam Chair. I wanted to voice our support for this. I'm very happy to see that it has passed. This is going to help a lot of businesses. You know, working with businesses every single day, we see what they're going through, and any little bit of support that we can get them, you know, it's absolutely necessary and it's crucial. I want to thank Wayne County and their team, Khalil, Wafa, Nasser, Kamal, all of them have been wonderful. And one of the greatest things that we've seen during this time is the partnerships and allyships that have come forth amongst different governmental entities to work together to really try to solve some problems. So I just wanted to voice our support and thank everybody for the hard work that they put into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to comment? Anyone in the public wishing to comment?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Mike Cade. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mike Cade from the Yemeni Chamber of Commerce. I wanted to thank Wayne County Executive Warren Evans, Khalil, and their team, and especially the Wayne County Commissioners. Our members continue to struggle in these challenging times. These are small businesses. Some of them are real estate investors with commercial buildings, and they haven't been able to collect rent in 90 days. And at the same time, they didn't qualify for any loans or grants because they didn't have the number of employees required, and they could not expense those grants and loans 75% of that. That was some of the requirements. So with that said, there are taxes that are due, there are insurance, there are maintenance, and we're seeing more and more of these landlords trying to evict the tenants. So as you could see the cycle, even if the landlords end up winning, it's these small businesses, the tenants, they end up being evicted. So it's going to be a significant impact, and I think this is going to be a great help. So we appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
You're welcome. I have been informed that there are 2 comments in the chat. Madam Clerk, would you read them, please?
Yes, one moment. We have a comment from Vic Bell. He writes, most micro small business in Detroit are run by Black women, sole proprietors, and single parents. What provisions can be made for a majority group in Detroit to obtain these grant funds and grow their business, as well as to obtain operations resources to be compliant and continue to grow?
Thank you. And there is ABC News reference, and we will definitely be reading that. Madam Clerk, would you take a note of that, and we'll distribute that?
Yes.
Thank you. Next one.
Just a second here. I don't see that there is another one. Am I missing it?
He already spoke, I think.
Through the chair, this is Joe. It's Mickey Godfrey.
Yes.
Okay. She writes, some businesses are on a payment plan with taxes and it does not show on the system.
Okay, we'll take note. Khalil?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other public comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Identify yourself.
I'm Peter Rose. I own a couple of stores in Wyandotte, Michigan, apparel stores. We've been here. We're a family-owned business since 1943. There's just a couple of questions that I'm trying to get a grip on. I thought I saw in the initial, I can't see what those slides were. I thought I saw this is restricted to people with under $1 million in profit. Is it profit or revenues?
Usually during public comments, we don't go back and forth, but let me ask Commissioner Palomero.
I know the Rose family. They've been stalwarts of the Downriver community 50 years.
Hello, Joe.
I hope someone can answer. Hi, Gib. I hope someone can answer their question. Khalil's on the line, and I asked, in your right, Madam Chair, we don't normally go back and forth with question and answer, but this is one case that I think needs clarification.
We will allow it. Thank you. Khalil, would you answer the question?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be proper, and I'm happy, Mr. Rose, and with the help of Commissioner Palomero, we can obviously talk after this. But Wafa, Lewis, correct me if I'm wrong, it is under $1 million in gross profit.
Okay, so that's a huge company. I just wanted to be clear that you're trying to keep this to help the small businesses. $1 million in profit is you figure what is a 5% profit. That's a huge business. So just keep that in mind. I think that's something. If you're trying to keep this for the small mom and pops, that ain't it. $1 million in profit is huge. And then the other thing that I wanted just to throw out there, just in terms of your consideration, because look, you're talking about giving away money here, and I don't want to. Beggars are not choosers. If we were able to participate in this, I'm not trying to throw any aspersions at any of this, but a small loss in a year for a small business is not really, should not be make that considered a failing business. There are ebbs and flows, and I think it might be the team to look at a 2 to 3 year span and see that if somebody just barely dipped in, but they've been doing okay prior to that, and then this comes about, I think that that might be something to keep in mind. That's really my only comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Anyone else from the public wishing to comment? Did we get any emails, Madam Clerk?
No, we did not receive any emails.
Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate the point that Mr. Rose just made. And that was one of the things that myself and Commissioner Scott was alluding to, is that the numbers here with the 50 employees and the $1 million is big business when we look at the average size of a business in most of our communities. So I really would hope that we look at some other process in lowering that threshold, the number of employees.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
Could we talk with Khalil after the meeting about that, because we're not going to resolve it here?
That's
And
fine. I just wanted to make that
And I have to apologize. I do have to jump on another meeting.
Okay.
And so this was public comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate your understanding. Khalil, would you please get with the Commissioner?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. But I do agree with you. Any other public comments? In that case, Madam Clerk, next item.
Adjournment.
So moved.
It's been moved by Commissioner Baydoun, supported by Martha G. Scott to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow at full board on the same issue. Thank you.
Good meeting. Good meeting. Great timing.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I played
We are adjourned. Hi. I can't vote.